was that since God rested on the seventh day, he gave his people, the children of Israel, a day of rest, which was the Sabbath day. Amen. Now that we understand the purpose of the Sabbath, let us look at the period of the Sabbath. In other words, how long did God intend for the Sabbath to last? Were we supposed to keep on keeping the Sabbath, as some are trying to do here in the year 2011? Obviously, some religious groups today believe that we are supposed to continue to keep the Sabbath as a perpetual covenant between us and God. I know that because they gather on the seventh day of the week to worship, not realizing that they're actually breaking the Sabbath by trying to observe the Sabbath. Yes, living in that sentiment. Individuals who are trying, who are attempting to worship God on Saturday because they believe that, remember, the Sabbath is for them. They actually break the Sabbath trying to observe the Sabbath. Yes, yes. Why would you say that, preacher? Why would you say they're actually breaking the Sabbath, trying to observe the Sabbath? Well, first of all, because under the old law, under the law in which the Sabbath was given, Jews could only travel a certain distance on that day. Right. According to history, it was about 2,000 cubits or paces. If you were to translate that into English, that would be about 3,000 feet. It takes about 5,200 plus feet for us to equal an English mile. Right. And they couldn't travel but 3,000 feet total on a Sabbath day. This is referred to in the Bible as a Sabbath day journey. They could only travel about 2,000 cubits, which a foot and a half would be translated into 3,000 feet. They couldn't go further than less than a mile. Right. Amen in here. They couldn't even travel a whole mile on the Sabbath day. Look at Acts chapter 1 and verse number 12. The Bible talks about a Sabbath day journey. Acts chapter 1, verse number 12. Then returned they unto Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is from Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey. It was about 2,000 cubits from Mount Olivet to Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey. 3,000 feet on the Sabbath day was the only distance that a Jew was allowed to travel. Most of the Sabbatarians I have come in contact with travel more than 3,000 feet to go to worship. Some of them travel all the way across town to come to worship. And when they do that, they are breaking the Sabbath day rule, trying to observe the Sabbath day, which is no longer in force. You see that? Yes. They were only allowed to travel a certain distance. And most of the people who I come in contact with and try to show them that the Sabbath is no longer in force, they tell me the distance they travel from their home to their assembly of worship. And I show them, you just broke the Sabbath when you did that. Yes. If you're trying to keep the Sabbath. Not only that, but also under the old law, the penalty for breaking the Sabbath or for not properly observing the Sabbath was immediate death. Look at Exodus chapter 31 and beginning in verse number 13. Exodus chapter 31, beginning in verse number 13. Bible says, speak thou to the children of Israel, saying, verily, my Sabbath ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that I may know that I am the Lord, the Lord that doth sanctify you. He says, ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. Y'all hear that? Yeah. Whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. God meant what he said, and he said what he meant. If he tells us to keep the Sabbath day, then in keeping the Sabbath day, none of us could hit the clock on the Sabbath day. I don't know about the folk that you know who are Seventh-day Adventists, but most of the ones I've come in contact with, they are adamant about not working on Saturday. They tell their employers, they have people in place who are ready to go to court with them if necessary, because their religion demands they don't work on the Sabbath day. I thought it interesting that they would take something that has already been done away with. They would take something that's no longer in force and enforce it in a society that doesn't even recognize God as God, to the degree that their employers will respect the fact they ain't coming in on the Sabbath day. You got some of us scared to tell the man. Scared to tell the man I can't work on Sunday. You follow what I'm saying? We have the same right to religion that they do. A law was passed a long time ago that your employer cannot discriminate against you based on your religious beliefs. And if your beliefs are as such as to where that Sunday is the day set aside to worship God, you can tell your boss, you can put me on the schedule if you want to, but I ain't gonna be here on Sunday morning. I'm going to worship God. I have a right to. Y'all seeing this? It's amazing that folk will take something that's no longer in force and put it in force. And those of us who belong to God won't even enforce what we need to be enforcing. It can't make you work on Sunday. You work because you want to. Amen in heaven. Yeah, you work because you want to. Some of us say, Brother Preacher, I need that double overtime. Now, you don't need it, you want it. You don't need it, you want it. You went out and bought something that you did not need with money that you did not have, trying to impress folk that you do not like. You got yourself in debt, and now you're looking for triple overtime to help you get out of debt. And see, the devil is so crafty to where once you get that first triple overtime check, he makes you desire another one. And then you look for another one, and it does not become a means of getting out of debt. At that time, it has turned into a love for money. The Bible indicates to us that the love of money is still the root of all evil. These folk on the Sabbath day were not to do any right. And because they're trying to hold true to something that has passed, they won't work on the Sabbath day. But not only are they breaking the Sabbath by their travel, and not only are they dishonoring the Sabbath because they're not paying the proper consequences, but the Lord shows us in Mark chapter 2, beginning at verse number 23, the Lord himself shows us that the Sabbath was made for the benefit of man, and not man being created just to keep the Sabbath. Notice here in Mark chapter 2, and beginning in verse number 23, and it came to pass that he went through the cornfields on the Sabbath day. And his disciples began, as they went, to pluck the ears of corn.